Welcome back again, everyone. Two friends occasionally not disagreeing. This is a big episode for us here as we are hitting up we've been around the air for half a year episode, and we're looking at the MCU, ranking all 29 movies today because we're insane like that. But amazing that the MCU has been around long enough that there are 29 movies. This is basically unheard of in cinema. And this is going to be our biggest episode ever today. I'll let the hosts introduce themselves here in just a second, but what we're going to attempt to do for all of you today is we're going to start with the complete review of Thor, Love and Thunder. Then we're going to go into the top 29 films of the MCU, and finally we'll be reviewing all of the stuff that was previewed at the San Diego Comic-Con for the future of the MCU up through Phase 6. So who's here with me tonight?
Well, I'll see you guys later. You have a good night.
Hey, I'm Dave. I would totally do all of those things, not on this podcast. Not in one podcast.
I am America's ass, and I agree.
That you are, man.
Yes, you are.
You can call me Joe.
The other type, though. The other type, like a donkey.
Or a screaming goat.
All right, so we're going to attempt to go through our top 29 from the worst movie to the best movie here, and we've kind of set some parameters up this evening to say that we are limited to maybe just a few sentences about each of these, why we'd give it the place that we've given it on our list. And I can't speak for the other house, but I know I made a list, revised it a couple times like Santa Claus. I checked my list a few times here and made some changes, and now it's been a day or two, so I'm looking back at this going, did I do it right now? I don't know. So
I found a little site online that lets you enter a list of items, and then it gives you a series of choices, just gives you two at a time. So you just pick this one or that one, this one or that one, over and over again. And it took like 233 times or something, but that generated my list, and I did not tweak it.
And you didn't share that with us?
I thought,
amazing.
Oh, shit, I didn't know you'd want it. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I do feel in general like a lot of my choices are kind of interchangeable, like especially around the middle section. I feel like a lot of them could just be kind of flopped around, but
I found it very, very easy to be like, this is number 16, but it probably should be 13. Then I can move 14 and 15 down, or vice, I don't know. So does anybody want to share briefly what they've been up to since our last cast here? Anything new?
Well, I saw Thor, Love and Thunder yesterday. That's the biggest kind of pop culture thing I've been up to. But are we going to possibly do a future episode about that?
Sure, we'll get to one eventually. I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Withhold my my impressions until then.
We'll see.
We're going to hear a couple sentences about it. But
today will reveal how I feel about it in general. But
he'll omit it from the list just because. But we'll see. I haven't been up to too much recently other than what I've already been saying in past episodes, but I did start watching season 2 of Russian Doll on Netflix.
I keep forgetting about that. I need to catch up.
It's weird. I watch it and I'm like, I enjoy this, but I don't know if it's good.
Fair enough.
I enjoy it. So
that's how I feel about you, Cody.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm not going to get a season 2, so this is it. So there we go. All right. Well, let's kick it off then. So I think we're doing golf rules tonight, and so it's going to be how are you doing this, Dave? Are you doing low points or high points for movies?
I'm doing high points, but so your number 1 movie will get 29 points, and your number 29 movie will get 1 point. But you just tell me, and I will record it, and it's my spreadsheet is ready to calculate and sort everything at the end. So
okay, very good. Well, should we set an order for this evening? I guess I've kind of tricked myself into going first here as the host now, but let's you guys can decide who goes second and third amongst you. All right, I'm going to kick my list off. Here we go. The big MCU countdown episode. I'm going to start with number 29, or as we call it in the podcast world, the Incredible Hulk position that you're going to hold for movies called The Incredible Hulk. And my number 29 movie is The Incredible Hulk, appropriately enough. So this is a steaming pile of shit. Nothing's good about this movie, from Norton to Tyler to anything else. Boom, done.
I'll go second, and I also put Hulk at 29. It's not a very good movie. It doesn't really carry much forward at all. They didn't really know what they were doing yet, and so you can't fault them for it, but it's not even really worth watching on any kind of rewatch.
I am also slotting the Incredible Hulk at the Incredible Hulk slot. I actually have not seen that movie. It's the only MCU movie I haven't seen, but from everything I've heard, there's no need for me to ever see it because it's terrible. So
That's correct.
There we go.
Accurate. I'm curious if Universal had like saying anything to do with that one or
I
something.
do think that was part of it. I think the production was a little troubled because of Universal, and also I heard that Ed Norton kept wanting to try to have creative input, and that led to some issues.
He was bad because the Hulk was kind of a dick, and Norton as Bruce Banner was also a dick. So there was like nothing to like about the character. It was just like the dick the whole time. So, all right, my number 28 movie, going back to 2013 for Thor: The Dark World, my 28 movie. Again, nothing I really enjoy about this, probably other than the camaraderie between Thor and Loki as the brothers from Asgard. That's really about all this movie had going for it. Generic bad guy, kind of a boring bleh. They hadn't figured out the Thor formula yet at this point, so 28 for me.
Mine is also a Thor movie, but it's the first Thor. The dyed blonde eyebrows alone make that worse than Thor: Dark World for me. They just look ridiculous, and I can't even watch that movie. It's boring, and there's no real appeal to it.
My 28 is also a Thor movie, and it is Thor: Love and Thunder. No, I'm kidding. It is Thor: The Dark World.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's just like a nothing burger of a movie. There's just like nothing really good going on. They managed to waste Christopher Eccleston, who otherwise is a great actor and like could have made for a great villain. And it's just not a good movie at all.
You almost wouldn't know he was even in the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty shit showtastic. All right, we're cruising here. My number 27 is Iron Man 3 from 2013. I just did not really particularly enjoy. Isn't this? I could be wrong because it's been a while since I watched this, but I'm assuming this is the one with the extremists, right?
Yes,
that was 3. Yeah, I did not care for that plot line whatsoever. I didn't like Killian's character necessarily as kind of the whiny bitch scientist who goes on to, I don't know. Yeah, Iron Man 3. That's my number 27.
It is also my number 27.
Wow.
Iron Man 3. For much the same reason. The whole side plot with the kid was boring and terrible. And I thought for a second they were going to use Pepper Potts' powers, but then they backed down from that. I skip it when I do the rewatch.
Wow, this is going to be one of the, spoiler alert, this is the first big divergence we have.
Oh, okay.
My number 27 is actually Iron Man 2.
Okay.
Which is just a terrible movie. The biggest issue with it, I think, is that it exists solely to set up other MCU stuff, and the movie itself is just a complete disaster.
I could see how some movies fall into that.
Yeah.
Label. All right, moving along. My number 26. Now, this is generally thought of as the worst of the ones in this series, but maybe this is particularly low for people. I don't know. It's Avengers: Age of Ultron coming in at number 26, down towards the bottom here.
Wow.
They ruined Ultron, who could have been a cool villain, and I feel like James Spader especially could have played him somehow to be better than what he was in the movie. I don't know. I feel like we had our first big Avenger death here, which was Quicksilver, even though he just joined the team. But I didn't really care that he died. It was kind of like the joke is he was Hawkeye's shield, right?
You would put that movie at number 26.
That's my 26.
My 26 is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Wow. My God.
No, it just really it's kind of a period piece. The visual effects of him as the scrawny guy just do not work for me, and I don't know. I just didn't care for it.
Dave's pro-Nazi, in case you didn't read through the
Dave
lines.
just loves Nazis.
Wow.
My number 26 is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Aha!
What?
It is just not a great movie. I mean, it's as befitting the place, not the worst MCU movie, but it was just kind of a mess, especially after the far superior movie of the original Avengers.
Yeah.
It just felt like a letdown, after the kind of high bar that the first Avengers movie had set.
Agreed. Okay, now my number 25, Iron Man 2 is now my number 25. So two of my Iron Man movies are down already here in the bottom five. Iron Man 2, a little bit better, but this movie had three things going for it that Iron Man 3 did not, and that's Scarlett Johansson, Kate Mara, and Gwyneth Paltrow. So those are my three reasons it gets higher score.
Keep it in your pants, Cody. Jeez.
Well,
my 25 is Thor: Dark World, mostly for the reasons that you guys have already stated. Dull, wasted villain, and just doesn't contribute much to the overall story.
My 25 is Eternals.
I thought that'd be top five for you.
And well, here's the weird thing, which this is going to be more than two sentences, but this is having to do with the list from now on. Is what surprises me looking at this list is starting with Eternals from 25 up to number 1. I would rewatch any of these movies. Like, I feel like my bottom 4 movies are like truly bad movies that I feel like I never need to watch ever again. But really, like, Eternals was not my favorite MCU movie, but I didn't hate it. Like, I thought it had some interesting ideas. And I mean, I feel like that's true of like the rest of the movies on the list for me. None of them I would say are terrible. It's just a matter of, enjoying some more than others. So, I mean, I did feel like Eternals was a little slow, maybe a little overlong, but I didn't regret watching it.
It's funny you say that because when I rewatched all of the movies this most recent time, there were some like Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 are good examples of this, of ones that I had a terrible opinion of. And when I rewatched them, they were better than I remembered them, but they're still the bottom of the MCU. So I don't know. Maybe repeated viewings would move stuff around some more. I don't really know. But anyway. Okay, my number 24 is also the Eternals, coming in at 24. We just did a podcast on this, so not too much to add. I think, again, this was a really ambitious one that just didn't quite hit all of its marks, but that's my 24, and they just got a sequel greenlit, so we'll see where that goes. Yep.
I hadn't heard that.
Spoiler.
I'm glad that it's not done. I'm glad that they're going to go back to it. I would rather they go back to it, even if they fail again, than for them to just honestly, for them to just write it off and kind of be like, oh, that never happened. If Thor took 3 movies to figure out, then Eternals can have a couple more chances too.
That's fair.
My 24 shock and awe is Eternals. So,
wow.
We got 3 in a row here. And I'll just say that, Joe, I agree with you at this point, or really with like Thor: Dark World and my number 25, I would totally rewatch any of them on the list and above at this point.
All right. Number 23 for me.
I have my 24.
Oh, George. God dang it.
Jeez,
Sorry.
Cody.
I'm trying to. Okay, go ahead.
My 24 is the first Thor movie. I like it. It's a perfectly fine movie, but it just is kind of lacking, the punch that some of the other movies have. Like Dave just said, it kind of took until the third Thor movie for them to really figure out what to do with the character. But I think it's an enjoyable movie. It just is not as good as a lot of the movies that came after it.
You needed more Rene Russo, as you're saying.
I mean, who doesn't?
Right? All right. Now my number 23, it is the first Thor. So there we go.
This is funny.
Not much to add to that. I actually thought it was okay. I mean, the direction they took Thor was different enough that it probably could have just distinguished itself in the MCU, but I do think it got better with the third movie. This was also like our first real look at space, I feel like, in the MCU too. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Even though like half the movie took place in like this ridiculously we're on a budget for the early MCU movie town in like New Mexico or someplace. Terrible setting, but anyway.
I feel like you can tell that movie was directed by Sir Kenneth Branagh.
I mean, yes.
Like, none of the action is super great. Like, it almost feels kind of like a stately Shakespearean MCU movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they add the Shakespeare to the later ones.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
My 23 is Iron Man 2. We're getting lots of repeated titles here. There were a couple of cool things going on with this. I would love to see Justin Hammer come back to the MCU, but there wasn't a ton going on here. They hadn't really figured out Black Widow yet. They just like made her hot, but didn't give her, really any other kind of character. Also, Elon Musk is in this movie, so fuck that.
Oh, it should be lower than shit.
Yeah, gross. My number 23 is Ant-Man.
Ant-Man?
The first Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man.
Like his name is like Scott Ant-Man?
Scott Ant-Man. I like the movie. I mean, I love Paul Rudd. Who doesn't? But again, it just...
The box office.
I mean, well, that's true. I don't know if it's because it didn't. I don't know. It didn't feel like it had the heft to it that like a lot of these other movies did. Like it kind of felt like just like a sort of light aside in the MCU, which I mean, again, I enjoyed, but it just is not even close to upper tier Marvel for me.
Okay. Oh, that's me. Sorry.
You, 22.
Goodness. All right. My 22. This is one that I would have thought would have been a lot higher, but the more I thought about it, I kept pushing it lower and lower and lower. It's Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Wow.
Which I love the actual Guardians themselves, but this movie just had a boring, crappy plot to it. Really, like the hunt for his dad and Kurt Russell. I mean, Kurt Russell's Kurt Russell, and they just made him this guy that I didn't care about, which I didn't love either. I did enjoy the Yondu half of the plot, though, but not enough to get it higher than 22 over here.
My 22 is Black Panther.
Whoa.
I thought that it was
racist again.
Yeah, I know. I figured you guys would go to that well. I just thought it was pretty predictable. A couple of the action sequences were cool, but that was about it. Killmonger was cool. I don't know. When it comes to movies that are like the first ones, the origin stories, I just felt like this one, along with a couple others, just fell flat for me.
Fair. My number 22 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
That low. Wow.
I spent an entire podcast episode talking about why I didn't love this movie, so I don't need to go on. I mean, there were things I liked about it, but it's really not great in my opinion. So there we go.
All right. Well, here's a hot spoiler for everybody. My number 21 is Thor: Love and Thunder, which I had a good time with in the theater. I laughed a lot. I feel like it's a good popcorn flick. The more and more and more I thought about this movie afterwards, the more and more and more it pissed me off. So that's my number 21, and I'll save most of those thoughts for future podcasting.
Ooh,
wasted opportunities. Tonal shifts. Sorry.
Oh boy.
My 21 is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Wow.
Circle gets a square.
I was very disappointed by this after Ragnarok, and I wanted this movie to be so many things. I expected it to be so many things that it just wasn't.
Oh, it's better than Ragnarok. What?
Really?
Maybe.
Oh my God. Joe, you have some terrible opinions, but that might be your worst one.
My number 21 is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You just hate Paul Rudd.
I love Paul Rudd. I mean, I put this above the other Ant-Man. Again, I liked it better than the first one. I liked seeing what's her face, the anti-vaxxer.
Evangeline Lilly.
The
anti-vax.
It's cool seeing her, get the wasp suit and whatnot. Love of Michael Douglas. I mean, I feel like it was a better all-around movie than the first one, but I mean, I guess I can't say that it felt as slight as the first one because it sets up some things that come into play with some of the later MCU stuff, but it just, again, didn't feel like it had quite the impact as a lot of the other movies.
Evangeline Lilly might also make my Mount Rushmore of hottest ladies in the MCU. But there's that. I'd have to think about it. All right, we're on to 20. Well, I hate to do it again, but number 20, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp right after Joe has it. Not much to add here. Again, I just thought this particular plot didn't really have a lot going for it. I don't know if like the ghost character was really cool, and then I don't feel like they did anything with that character. I think that character is going to come back later, spoiler alert, but I don't know. I didn't really care for her. I don't know if I was supposed to feel bad for her or sad for her, or if she was a villain, or I don't know.
Yeah, the whole thing was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, I'm hoping they flesh her out a little more. I agree. Number 20 for me was the original Iron Man.
Ooh.
I mean, it's the one that kicked everything off, and you know, Favreau and Downey just like kicked ass in that movie. Really made the best possible movie they could have. And I love the character of Iron Man. He's maybe my favorite. But it also, you know, when you rewatch it, it shows its age quite a bit. The villain, despite being very memeful with his made it in a cave with a box of scraps, is just not that interesting. And it shows its age a bit. So I would rank it lower, but it's a bit of an homage to what it did for the MCU that I bumped it up a bit.
I'm intrigued to see the rest of your list here.
Far out, man. I often forget that Jeff Bridges was the first MCU villain.
That's true.
Which is weird.
Good point.
The dude did not abide.
This is where I feel like my list gets kind of wishy-washy, where like the next 5 to 10 movies are pretty interchangeable.
I feel the same way, yeah.
I have at number 20 Spider-Man Homecoming. And I really like this movie. A huge Spider-Man fan. I think Tom Holland is great in the role. But yeah, it's there it is.
Okay. That's another interesting one. Well, we're a third of the way done already. Can you believe that? We're cruising here. All right, number 19. I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number 19. Again, we did a podcast on this one, so go check it out, everyone. But this is a movie that should have had such potential and just didn't fully live up to the promise of the multiverse. But sounds like we're going to get a whole lot more multiverse coming up here yet. So we'll see. Maybe some stuff in here will tie in big yet.
Okay, 19 for me, Captain Marvel. Again, file it under origin story movies. This one was cool in that it, you know, went back and filled in a couple of holes for us. But
what did it fill in?
A couple of holes for us.
Okay. Couldn't hear you.
You're filling holes. I mean, what?
But you know, so like what, you know, with Fury and whatnot. But the whole Skrull twist, it's good the first time you're watching it, but after on a rewatch, the whole movie loses a lot because it makes it less interesting when you already know the twist, I guess. So yeah, that's number 19 for me.
That's all right.
You guys are going to strongly disagree with my top 10.
I might disagree with both of your top 10.
I'm feeling the same way about my own.
Man.
Yeah.
Number 19, I have Black Widow. Which
Okay.
I actually enjoyed this movie a lot more than I expected to. Like when they announced it, I mean, I like Scarlett Johansson, but especially since it came out after her character was already dead in the MCU, I was kind of like, what's the point? What are they going to possibly do with the Black Widow movie?
Yeah.
But I mean, she was great in it. David Harbour's great in it as Red Guardian. Florence Pugh is amazing as Yelena. Like, she's probably one of the best characters in the MCU now. Rachel Weisz is always great. Like, I just really liked it a lot more than I expected to. But partly because of when it came out, you know, and what we know happens to Natasha and everything, I feel like it's a little bit lower on the list.
Fair. All right. Well, my number 18 is the first of the 3 Spider-Man movies, and I have Spider-Man Far From Home in this position at number 18. This one in particular, I mean, they could have done something pretty cool with this one, but I didn't feel like they did, because like the basic plot premise was that Mysterio could have been a hero, could have been a villain, and he claimed he was from a different multiverse, I guess, universe. But the problem is, like in the comic books, he's very clearly like a Spider-Man villain. So like when they do the twist in this one, like Dave was saying, you're like, oh, he's a bad guy, and you're like, well, I expected that because he's always been a bad guy. So I don't know.
I mean, that's fair, but in the MCU does like to kind of put twists on characters that come from the comics. So
yeah, and that would have been good.
It seemed possible that they could have tried to do something.
They did string it out a pretty long time, I'll say that. It's also weird that he did like name another universe then. Yeah. So that's weird.
What do you mean?
Like he said he was from like Earth 316 or something.
Oh yeah, he correctly called the main universe 616.
Oh yeah,
which doesn't make any sense that he would. I don't know where.
Well, remember Donnie Darko though, so he knew.
Ah, there you go. Okay. Number 18 for me is the first Ant-Man. I'm in a whole realm of origin story first movies here, which like I said, for me are somewhat not as exciting as the sequels that can kind of hit the ground running. This one in particular suffered from the whole the villain has the same powers as the protagonist, but just evil kind of bullshit. Yeah, that's it.
Speaking of origin stories, my number 18 is Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Again, really enjoyed the movie. I like Benedict Cumberbatch. Took me a while to get used to his American accent in that movie, but it ended up working for me. Really love the finale of that movie. I thought it was like a very creative way that he ends up kind of defeating the villain. But you know, as Dave is kind of implying, it's kind of hard for origin stories to really set themselves apart. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, all of these movies I enjoy. It's just kind of a matter of trying to slot them in somewhere. So
well, I'll keep the conversation going. So my number 17 is Doctor Strange, which had some good jokes, had some high points to it. Problem, I think, to me with Doctor Strange as a character is he's not particularly endearing. He's kind of a jerk that puts people off in the movie and then kind of puts me off a little bit as the audience. Like I find him a very fascinating character. I'm very happy he's like a very big part of the MCU now, but I just don't find him a particularly relatable character or one I really particularly care for on a personal level.
It's weird because you're an off-putting asshole.
That's probably why then. Can't be two of us.
I'm sorry, that was wrong of me.
Oh boy. That was an old joke, an ancient one. Good job, Joe.
My number 17, let's keep it going. It's Doctor Strange.
Oh shit.
For all the reasons you guys said, I'll just add a pro is that the geometric architecture in that movie is incredible and something that I wish carried forward into future Doctor Strange movies more than it has. And the con being that I feel like in this first one, they're just trying to write for Iron Man. I feel like the character is very similar and they hadn't really found a way to set Strange apart yet from that character.
That's fair. Number 17, I have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Another movie we did a whole episode about. I really liked it. As far as origin stories go, I think it's actually one of the better ones that they've made. Obviously kind of groundbreaking with the almost exclusively Asian cast. A lot of good humor in the movie, a lot of good action. Don't really have a lot of negative things to say, but there it is.
Okay. My number 16 has been mentioned here already, but it's Black Widow. And I echo a lot of things that were said. It just seemed really unnecessary when it came out. But I think maybe of the movies, I'm trying to think, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, but this has got to be one of the top ones that has like a family element to it, which you mentioned all the great actors and actresses already, but it really did feel like they were a dysfunctional, but yet very loving family unit. And I think that carried the movie a long way. The villain was kind of sketchy. I get the plot origin and stuff, but
16 for me is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Really for the reasons that you guys said. I mean, I put it a little higher because I actually like Ghost and I'd love to see her back again. I loved when Hope gets a chance to suit up and actually kick some ass instead of being sidelined like she was in the first one. And it set up some time travel shenanigans that I will enjoy later on in the list.
Ooh, you tease. My number 16 is Spider-Man Far From Home. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Mysterio actually worked for me really well in that movie. I was curious to see how they were going to portray him. You know, like in the comics, he obviously has like the special effects background.
yeah,
I thought it was really cool how they portrayed, like they did it using the drones in that movie. And yeah, I liked Jake Gyllenhaal in that. Again, love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I like the twist.
With this.
I like the twist at the end where, you know, J. Jonah Jameson announces to the world, like using the footage from Mysterio, that Peter Parker is
how many packs of pickled
Spider-Man.
peppers did
Peck of pickled peppers.
Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled Spider-Man. Anyway, I like that movie a lot. Yeah, it worked for me, and there we go.
Okay, my number 15, top half. What's the middle movie? I guess actually. We're sticking with the bug themed heroes here. My 15 is Ant-Man, which I actually laughed probably way too hard at this movie when it came out, because there's like the good funny in it, which is like, what's the guy's name? Luis? Is that his sidekick's name?
Yeah, that guy's great.
He's fantastic when he would do the fast narrations and recaps of everything. That was amazing. But I even laughed at like the stupid like sight gags, like the Thomas the Train and like other stupid little things that were like so cool because they were giant compared to him, that really weren't that funny. I recognized, but I still laughed at them anyway. So Ant-Man.
All right, number 15 for me is Black Widow. I did not like how she was invincible in that movie and could, you know, fall from any height or walk away from any injury. That's probably my biggest complaint, but I liked a lot of other things about the movie, especially the family dynamic, Cody, that you mentioned, and the introduction of Elena, who I agree with Joe is just fantastic and a great character. I can't wait to see more of her.
My number 15, I feel like, is where I am really going to start drawing ire from people.
Do it.
It is the first Captain America movie on my list, but it is the second Captain America movie to be released. It is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Okay.
It's a great movie. I appreciate a lot of what it is trying to say in terms of like the political thriller aspect of it, but I just did not enjoy it as much as the other two Captain America movies. And I know a lot of people feel like it is like very, very top tier MCU. For me, it's a great movie, but it just doesn't maybe have as much heart as some of the other entries, which is a big thing for me.
Okay. 14 is the most recent Spider-Man No Way Home, released just this past year, 2021. A lot of fan service in this movie. I don't feel like it's a particularly great movie by any stretch, but I recognize that it was able to pull together a lot of things the audience wanted into one movie with a plot that kind of made sense, kind of didn't make sense to me. I don't know. I don't know, this multiverse phase might be tough on me because I start to analyze stuff too much, and then I'm like, I don't know if this is making sense or not. But it was pretty cool. It had some pretty cool moments to it, and kudos to them for attempting to hide as much as they could about that movie for as long as they could before it came out.
14 for me, Joe. I'm right there with you. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I like that they tried to make a genre movie. They tried to make a spy thriller within the MCU, and I feel like that's something they should do more often, is take a genre and apply it to the MCU in some way. But it also kind of fell flat for me. The elevator scene is classic, but a lot of it just not so good. Oh, and Robert Redford was just maybe the dullest villain in the MCU. I thought that they gave him nothing to do and he failed at that. So
Impressive.
What's that, Cody?
That's impressive. He failed at nothing.
yeah, exactly. They gave him almost nothing to do and they failed at what they gave him. He
That's
failed.
fair. My number 14 is Iron Man 3.
What? Okay.
That's a much higher ranking than ours. Wow.
I really like this movie. I'm a big fan of Shane Black, who wrote and directed this movie. It just worked for me.
You can like the director, but did you watch the movie?
I did, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's got some humor. It's got some heart. It's got some Christmas time action, which is a hallmark of Shane Black.
Joe's a fan of the man-boy love.
Anyway, I like Iron Man 3, and I think you guys are wrong about it. So,
okay, well, my number 13 is the first Iron Man, the Godfather here, which is a pretty good movie. I recognize that it was what it was supposed to do for the MCU, got people interested in like one of these characters that prior to this, I will say, even as a comic fan, the only thing I really knew about Iron Man, well, not really, but mainly knew about him was that he was like a drunk superhero. And then when they cast Robert Downey Jr., I was like, this is perfect. Oh my gosh. But really is a testament to his charisma that like that role worked so well. And other people, Edward Norton and other people did not do the same thing. So I'm giving props here. 13 Iron Man, the original.
13 for me is the last of the origin movies on my list. The highest rated one for me is Shang-Chi. This is almost for the bus scene alone. That is just an incredible scene. I like the scaffolding fight too. I liked a lot of the character work going on here. I just thought it was really dragged down by the CGI dragon fight at the end. But in general, I liked it quite a bit.
my number 13 is one that is possibly also going to draw some ire. It is Thor Ragnarok.
Explain yourself. Because you have not yet said Love and Thunder.
So another case, like with my number 14, I love the director, Taika Waititi. I've seen most, if not all, of his movies at this point, like huge fan. And I heard all of the praise that everyone showered on this movie, and I enjoyed it. It just didn't quite live up to the hype for me. I think my biggest problem is that you guys are probably going to hold this against me when it comes to a later entry, but my biggest problem with it is it felt like two movies placed together. Like I felt like I didn't even need the whole Hela plot line. Like, just let me have fun with Thor and Hulk and whatever's going on there, and like don't try to like shoehorn this like super serious doomsday thing on top of it. I don't know. Again, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm putting it at number 13 out of 29 movies, so that still is relatively fairly high up. Yeah. But it just did not work for me as well as it seems to for most other people.
Wow. Okay.
Comments on that later. All right. My number 12, Captain America, the First Avenger. Sucker for a good historical period piece. I thought this one was pulled off really well. But what I enjoy most about this one is, you guys probably are not shocked. You know, Captain America is probably my boy from the MCU. And I felt like this one had a lot of heart that the other movies don't have on this list. Like the scenes where he's like jumping on the grenade to protect the people in camp and stuff. Like, this feels like he embodies the ideals that we look for in our heroes in this movie, maybe more so than we had seen in like a Thor or Iron Man or whatever that piece of shit was with the green guy in it. So that's my number 12, Captain America: The First Avenger.
All right. Number 12 for me, I'm ranking much higher than you guys, and that is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Wow.
I
Explain yourself.
I think it's the weakest of the team up movies, but it really does a lot. It brings us Vision, it brings us Scarlet Witch. It has its problems. It's more like the couple of days of Ultron instead of the true Age of Ultron.
Or Sokovia.
But yeah, like the things that it carries forward, it makes a really big impact on the MCU. And it does suffer a little Joss Whedonism, like when Tony Stark declares
Tony Stank
Prima Nocturne, which is the joke that totally does not age well at all. It didn't age. It wasn't
I
good
don't remember
then.
that. What?
I don't remember that either. What now?
Yeah, at some point.
Whose wife is he having
I
sex
don't.
with?
He just it's something like he's like, if I'm in charge, then I'm bringing back Prima Nocturne. I'll have to look up the details of it, but it's
That feels very icky given all the weed and stuff that's coming.
It really does. And also the Natasha and Bruce romance shoehorned into that movie doesn't work at all.
Sun's getting real low.
Yeah, but it had some good action and cool robots and shit. I mean, I don't know, the Hulkbuster fight, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I like it, and I'm putting it number 12.
My number 12 is the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's with your pronunciation.
It's a fun movie. Introduces a lot of great characters. And yeah, that's about all I can say about it.
Now that's an origin movie. I haven't heard Dave say yet. Didn't he say he was on
That's
his last
true.
one?
Honestly, I think my one negative I'll say about the first Guardians of the Galaxy is that I don't think the villain is interesting at all.
What?
Ronan?
Yeah, like
They had to hold hands to beat him, Joe. It's like the Care Bears.
Oh my god. I mean, all right, love like everything else about the movie, but he is just like bleh, like nothing.
Okay.
He is like generically evil. I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
he
But,
is.
That's what I
He
mean.
really
but
is.
Lee Pace, come on, he's awesome.
I like for that 1 second too, and he was like, "I'll kill Thanos," and then he was like, "No, maybe not."
Nope.
Okay, my number 11 is an origin story.
What?
Sort of, but it's not his first appearance. It's Black Panther. Number 11, Black Panther, which is, I recognize that this is, I'm going to disagree with comments earlier and say this is near the perfect movie, except for a few things wrong with it, but it just didn't grab me in particular. And here's a couple reasons why. I liked the character. I loved the settings and like the African atmosphere for the movie. But Killmonger was right, and he won that battle fair and square, and that was some bullshit by Wakanda. But I also liked that opening scene with the kids playing basketball and that whole thing. And then, like, when I watched that, that was a swerve for me because I thought the kids were going to be the opposite way around, and that's not how it ended up being. So I got a Black Panther, number 11.
All right, 11 for me. I finally reached the Spider-Man. For me, it's Spider-Man 2, Far From Home. I like Mysterio as a villain. His little illusion effects were cool and done very well, I thought. I liked his twist, even though, like Cody said, it was very obvious. He definitely saw it coming. But I thought that everyone in that movie did a great job, and I don't know, I enjoyed it.
Good job, everybody. My number 11 is also a Spider-Man. It is the last Spider-Man movie, No Way Home. It's big, it's kind of unwieldy, it's kind of silly, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. I really like the interplay with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man in that movie. As I mentioned before, I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, but I do kind of feel like he works better when he's paired with someone who can kind of like throw it back at him. And just having the three different Spider-Men share the screen, it's honestly, going into it, I was a little nervous about how well that would work out, but like I would watch a buddy movie of what's his face and what's his face. Wow,
Oh, those guys.
Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Like I would watch a buddy Spider-Man movie of those two guys, like just hanging out, being Peter Parkers together. Like I thought their chemistry was just amazing. So
Whole movie
I
takes
just had a
place
great
in
time with
Central
that
Park.
movie.
Yes. All right. We're at the top 10. Can you believe this?
My God.
That's where we get to the predictables and the surprises. Here we go. My number 10, I did not think would be my number 10, but here it is at number 10. And this is Captain Marvel, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I liked the Skrull twist because that is against the comics where they are the bad guys. So that was kind of cool to see. And I actually really liked the just duo dynamic between Nick Fury and Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. Thought that was really well done. And who doesn't love a good flirkin as well? I mean, that movie's got all sorts of good stuff going on.
You're a flirkin.
No, you're a flirkin.
All right, number 10 for me keeps my Spider-Man trend going. It is Spider-Man No Way Home. Like Joe was just talking about, I thought the dynamic between the three Spider-Men was fantastic, really fun. This movie would be rated a lot higher for me if it was not clearly a deal with Sony to canonize their past movies, as especially hammered home by the fact that Eddie Brock Venom is in a post-credit scene.
That was pretty rough.
It's just Sony's really just produced shit with their Spider-Man license lately, and their blatant attempt to shoehorn their property into it just really brings it down. This would be much higher rated for me if not for that, but I did enjoy a lot about it, and it's in my top 10 for a reason.
Nice. My number 10 is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Bum, 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 bum.
The MCU movie with the greatest soundtrack of them all.
Oh, this is a controversial statement. I'm listening.
Thor Ragnarok? You did Thor Ragnarok.
The only one I know
Love and
of
Thunder?
that features Dio on its soundtrack.
Oh, Guardians 1 is better.
In addition to some Guns N' Roses bangers, it is Thor Love and Thunder in my number 10 slot.
Was there a Dio song?
Yeah, it was the end credit song. Rainbow in the
Oh,
Dark.
I don't remember that. I just remembered they used 4 songs from Guns N' Roses, and I was like, this is the greatest movie soundtrack of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Shitty movie, but it's
I just enjoyed this movie like way more than I expected to. I will admit that it is kind of messy, but it just worked for me. Like I think its heart's in the right place. The jokes just landed for me. I loved
the jokes were so stupid. Oh my god.
Thor was so stupid. The character was
Sorry.
Word for me. Anyway, I loved what they did with a lot of the supporting characters. Korg worked for me a lot more in this movie than he did in Ragnarok.
What?
I thought Valkyrie was
very
great.
confused by that.
I thought Valkyrie was great.
Valkyrie is so much worse. Oh my god.
Loved Russell Crowe as Zeus.
No. Oh my
was
god.
like ridiculous.
This is
and
awful,
hilarious and
Joe. You're
amazing.
awful.
Okay. Listen, Mr. Putting Avengers Age of Ultron anywhere other than your bottom 3.
Spoiler for our future podcast on Thor Love and Thunder. Do you know who my family's favorite character was in the movie?
Who?
Bo, the god of rolls or whatever the hell he was.
It's
of course,
and
Bao.
he's the god of dumplings.
There you go. That they were like, make a Funko
It's
Pop with
amazing.
him. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
That
Anyway,
was
this was my favorite Thor movie.
maybe the dumbest character in the MCU.
I had a lot of fun with it. You guys are terrible. Cody, what's your number 9?
Okay, my number 9 is a word I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot of here in the top 9s, and that is the Avengers. The original one here from 2012, which that's 10 years ago, which is both hard to believe and seems easy to believe somehow at the same time. But that scene when you had like the 6 of them and they did like the panorama around the 6 of them, and you were like, holy shit, they like pulled this off for enough films to put this together.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. And that fight in New York actually is pretty decent. Like it highlighted all their strengths and strategies, and like
It's the Battle of New York. Thank you.
okay, listen, Cap's telling people where to go, and like Hawkeye, I believe, actually like ran out of arrows at one point even, and was like, whoa, 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 what do I do? But figured it out, and the Hulk's just like wrecking shit. So it kind of somehow made it work.
Yeah,
for all
Hulk
of them.
wreck. That's what he's known for.
They do. They're like Hulk wreck.
Yeah.
Well, he'll
Hulk's
smash
like,
in a
"It's
later
clobbering
movie as
time."
well. Spoiler, but here we go.
All right, number 9 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming. All my Spider-Man movies ended up together on the list, which I was kind of weirdly pleased to see. But this is the best one for me. I thought it introduced the character well. It skipped the origin, which was a great idea. We didn't need that. And I thought the twist with Vulture was just fantastic. Having him be the girlfriend's father. It just the scene where he's driving Peter to the dance is just so tense and wonderful. And it has some great Iron Man dynamic in it too. So Spider-Man 1 for me. I love that movie.
Pretty good. My number 9 is actually the same as Cody's number 9, The Avengers. It's hard to beat. It was just such an amazing thing when it came out. You know, we had all the movies kind of leading up to it. I think it was a better movie than at least most of the movies that had led up to it, which is no mean feat when you're bringing all the different characters together. And I just thought it worked really well. I mean, get some great Loki motion. That's a different thing.
Loki motion.
Get some great Loki
Come
moments.
on, baby.
You get,
The Loki motion.
Love
you get
that.
the big Phil Coulson moment where we get the
Phil.
name of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a great movie.
Agreed on that one. Okay, my number 8 is my top solo performance by Spider-Man Homecoming, as Dave just mentioned here, 2017. A lot of the same reasons Dave just said. Like this was, Tom Holland was maybe more so than Maguire or Garfield believable as like a teenager for the first time. And that's probably a slight on him, honestly, because he just looks super young. And he is young, but like he looks young, you know what I mean? Like he's going to look young for a while compared to other people who are going to start to age. But it was a small setting, which usually I'm a big fan of, kind of like the really contained plots, although that's going to be contradicted by a few coming up here in just a minute. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. Vulture was, cool choice, a little different bad guy. Thankfully, they chose than somebody we had seen over and over in the Sony movies prior to that point already. Like they didn't bring back Green Goblin again as the origin story or whatever the case may be. So I like this one. Spider-Man Homecoming is my top Spider-Man.
All right, number 8 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Volume 2.
Spit take?
I really liked a lot about this one. They hit the ground running like I like. I thought Ego was a cool villain. Yondu was great in this. It had some flaws like Sylvester Stallone being in the movie.
Don't watch part 3 then. Spoiler.
Yeah, sure. I just thought that
quite a bit.
They had a lot of fun with it, and they
just like Mantis. Just say you want to be touched by Mantis. So we just want to hear you say.
I would totally be touched by Mantis. Yeah, she can take my ass any day.
Whoa!
What?
She likes to kick names and take ass, right?
Oh, okay. You saved
Sir,
yourself
this is
there.
a family program.
Yeah, right.
My number 8 is Iron Man. The first Iron Man. It's just a really solid movie from start to finish. It was the first big Marvel movie, and it was just kind of mind-blowing when it came out that superhero movies were finally being taken seriously. And yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. obviously is fantastic as Tony Stark, Um, it's a great movie, and I think it is one of the better origin movies.
Nice.
I mean, that would be an interesting future podcast. Do we really feel like Iron Man 1 was like that different or that big of a leap from like Spider-Man and X-Men and other stuff? I don't know. Something about it definitely worked and felt good, but I don't know.
I think it, I mean, we can, I
What it
feel
was.
like it felt more adult than a lot of what had come before.
Hmm.
It like more like kind of grounded in reality to in a way. I don't know. Like it felt like it was made as like a serious, action movie as opposed to a lot of the silliness that had come in comic book movies before.
It is weird. I feel like the MCU is like simultaneously feels more like a comic book than all the other stuff before, but at the same time, like doesn't always follow like what they should look like and other things that
Yeah.
are details from the comic book. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, top 7. Now my top 7, I'll say this is a pretty harsh cutoff here from 7 to 8. So these top 7 got juggled around quite a bit again at the top here, which is not something I usually do with a big listing, but it ended up this way. Number 7, I have Thor Ragnarok, which was fantastic and infinitely superior to Love and Thunder. So I'm not sure what you're on over there, but fantastic. The stuff with the Hulk, they used him properly. They made him a character that actually was like fun in the movie and cool.
Yeah.
Korg and even Meek to a lesser extent were pretty fun in this movie. Thor on the Sakaar was pretty cool, and how
But did
Loki
it
was
have
like
screaming goats?
suddenly on the ends with the Grandmaster, and maybe Jeff Goldblum's most fun role that I can think of. So yeah, I said it. You can challenge me with some other ideas, but that's what I'm going for. Number 7, Thor Ragnarok.
All right. 7 for me is a big departure from where you guys ranked it. But I'm putting Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness at number 7.
Wow.
The movie has some problems, which we discussed on a recent
It's called
podcast.
the majority of the movie.
But it's so fun, you guys. It's so fun. And there's some recency bias here. There's some fan service, but I am here for the fan service. Like all the Illuminati stuff, I was just like jumping out of my seat. And it was another time when I was so glad that I hadn't watched any trailers. I didn't know any of that shit was going to be in there. And I just had a lot of fun with it. So this probably is putting it higher than whatever score I gave it on our podcast. But when it came time to rank these, it just ended up pretty high for me.
Can't wait to see where that's at when we do the first 50 MCU movies down the road, boy.
Hey, it'll probably drop. I bet it will.
My number 7 is the highest this movie is going to be on anyone's list. It is Captain Marvel.
Wow.
I was kind of surprised Cody had as high as he did, and like glad to hear that. But I thought this was just a great movie. I'm a big fan of Brie Larson in general. I think she's great as Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel. Like Cody said, I love the interplay with her and Sam Jackson. I thought the digital de-aging of Sam Jackson looked like amazing in this movie.
I thought so too. Yeah, they did that well.
Wait, they didn't film that in the 80s?
I liked the 90s setting. Like I liked that this was kind of a period piece.
Yeah.
And for being Marvel's first like female led superhero movie, I don't think it could have been much better than it was. It just worked really well for me, and I had a great time with it.
Oh,
yeah, I agree. It was really good. I mean, some of the stuff with the Kree, I guess, could have been, I don't know, maybe a little better, but it was good. It was good. Was that I thought that was a.
No, I was gonna say something, but that's all right.
Okay, you sure? You can say it.
Okay,
all right. Number 6 for me is spoiler, my most recent movie this high, and it is Shang-Chi at number 6 on my list.
Wow.
Really, really, really enjoy this one from start to finish.
Wow.
Feel like the characters all have like a fun motivation, whether it's with their friend or with their family. Wenwu's story is kind of cool. Shang-Chi's kind of cool. The previously mentioned scaffold fighting and the bus scene are both pretty awesome. And Morris is adorable as well. And just solid movie all around. I really, really liked this one. Very fun.
All right, number 6 for me is the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, normally I don't like the origin story more than the sequel, but I do in this case because I think they just knocked it out of the park with this one. I think every single character they just figured out right away. The dynamic between all of them is great. I don't mind the villain like Joe does, and the soundtrack's fantastic. I could go on and on. That movie really just did everything right for me.
Number 6 for me is Avengers: Infinity War.
To get the colon in again.
Always got to get in the colon. Wink.
Not till Monday.
Great movie. I mean, obviously just like a huge event, tying so much together. The way this movie ends is kind of incredible. It ends on just like a huge down note. It's kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of the franchise, where Thanos wins, at least momentarily.
Question mark? Yeah.
We see so many people get snapped and like turn into that dust, and you get the heartbreaking Peter Parker moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's an incredible movie. Really, I mean, the only reason it's not higher for me is that it is very much like the first half of a 2-part epic. So it doesn't entirely stand on its own, but it is just a major feat of filmmaking.
Yeah. As someone who's keeping track on this sheet here, Joe, I can't believe there are movies that you haven't said yet, and you're already to Infinity War.
Oh, you just wait until I get to my top 3.
Oh my God!
It'll be the Punisher 70s movie, number 1 or 80s.
Nick Fury with David Hasselhoff. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There we go. All right, my number 5. Number 5 is a movie that I think people at least recognize, if not credit, as this is where the MCU was going places, because when they pulled this movie off and it was successful, people were like, who the fuck are these guys? It's Guardians of the Galaxy at number 5, and definitely was like the first time that it wasn't a Thor, it wasn't an Iron Man, and not that even those characters were maybe as popular as like Spider-Man or Wolverine, but like when they made, Star-Lord and Drax and other people like big, you knew the MCU was rolling along. And I do agree, like, it was written really well for the characters. I know I saw some people complaining even recently online about how like they neutered Drax's character, who's like just this killer in the comics, and now he's just like comic relief. But like they made everybody fit that family unit as much as they could to maximize the relationships with each other. And I will say sometimes like it grates on me just a little bit with like Rocket being like, I hate all of you, and like I want to be by myself, or like there's some like tropes that they fall into, like sad boy character moment here for Joe that I could do without, but somehow it all pulls off together. And I agree, this one was really great. And Dave just mentioned as well, the soundtracks in these movies are like almost entirely music that I would not listen to voluntarily. But like if somebody was like, let's fire up volume 1 Guardians mix, I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. Like it's fantastic. So number 5, Guardians.
All right, number 5 for me is Thor Ragnarok. You've already heard me talking about how I love this one. I just think they've finally figured out Thor. They finally figured out Hulk, turned them into great, fun characters. Sakar's awesome. Grandmaster's awesome. Valkyrie, fucking awesome. I thought Loki is used well. I thought Hela was great. I know that she is removed from Thor for a lot of the plot, and I agree that is a weakness of the movie, but she's just badass. And the way that they actually destroyed Asgard at the end of it is just really just a big move. And it just did everything right, and I love that movie. I
also love that she was like all powerful, and yet she like couldn't stop Surtur. Like who's just like this kind of big, dumb, dopey villain, but like so powerful. He's like, and I wrecked your planet.
Well, that's your opinion on that movie. My number 5 is Black Panther. I think this movie is fantastic. I think that Chadwick Boseman is great. I think that Letitia Wright is great. I think that
in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, in the movie. I think everyone in this movie is great. I love the Afrofuturism, like just the way Wakanda is portrayed. I like the fact that maybe Killmonger is right. Like I like the complication there of the central conflict, and I just think it's an incredible movie.
His message is spot on. I'm trying to remember that one. Is Claw the only white dude in the movie?
And
Yeah, I think so.
Martin Freeman.
Oh, Martin Freeman
yeah.
too. That's right.
The two
But he didn't really
Tolkien
count.
white guys.
He was just like trying to find a ring the whole movie. I was like, that's dumb.
Oh.
I'll say my joke again. The two Tolkien white guys.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it first time. That's good. That's good.
That was pretty good, Dave.
All right, we're up to the big
not
four.
original, but-
Oh man. Well, the way I have these written, at least, here we go. My number 4 is surprisingly low on my list for the moment that it produced. It's Avengers Endgame.
What?
Wow.
Portal scene is by far the best moment in the entire MCU. But in terms of a movie, I don't know. Time travel gets convoluted and they do all these things, I guess. This where Black Widow dies in this one, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
for realsies.
Yo.
So. But I mean, it was cool to see how they rectified time. I guess it did have like Iron Man and Cap's moments too. Maybe it should be higher on my list, but for tonight, it's not. Number 4 is Endgame.
Wow.
All right, number 4 for me is Captain America: Civil War. Loved the Tony versus Steve dynamic and the teams. This was like a big team up movie when it shouldn't have been a team up movie. Should have been a Cap movie, but they made it a team up, and it was super enjoyable. Love the airport fight. Love the villain in this too. Zemo just does a great job. A totally believable way of turning the Avengers against each other. Lots of great action. We saw Scarlet Witch's real badass power for the first time against Vision. I love everything about it.
You would put that movie at number 4.
What's your number 4, Joe?
My number 4 is Captain America: Civil War.
It's like a tell on these podcasts.
I know, right?
It's tradition at this point. I agree with everything Dave said. I mean, this is a better Avengers movie than Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, it is a little weird because it really is more of a big ensemble team up movie than it is specifically a Captain America movie. Although I mean, there's some Cap stuff kind of at the heart of it, but it's a great movie. I mean, the airport scene is incredible. We get, I believe this was the first time we got Tom Holland Spider-Man, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Black Panther.
and Black
And
Panther.
Black Panther.
Introduced both characters.
Some first there. And
Pretty ballsy move.
Yeah, it was just a great movie. I think this was one of the few Marvel movies I saw more than once at the theater because I just had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I guess I picked the wrong number 4 movie, huh? My number 3 is Captain America: Civil War, which is all the reasons you all said, but I want to reemphasize a couple of points that Dave made in there. Like, I just love that there was a villain, Helmut Zero here, Baron Zemo, who found a way to drive a wedge between Captain America and Iron Man because he was so right in like what he said, which is like, no one's going to take down the Avengers. I guess Thanos almost did later, but like, what better way to have them taken down than to have them fight themselves? And it was also cool that they showed like Captain America knew how Tony's parents died and like kept that to himself also. And that like kind of goes against his character as well. And then understandably, Iron Man was pissed about it. But there was also that cool ruse towards the end too, where you kind of think like he's creating those super soldiers and like,
Oh yeah.
nope, that wasn't it. He put bullets through all those people while they were in their tanks. So this is awesome. Airport scene is just amazing for real. Like that part's awesome. And then again, like you instantly knew Spider-Man was going to be in good hands as soon as you saw him in that scene and some other parts here. And Black Panther was kind of a dick in this movie, but he kind of worked out too, I guess. So yeah, I love this one. Captain America Civil War.
All right, number 3 for me. 10 years ago, I walked into a theater. I watched the OG Avengers, and it changed me. Like, up till that point, I think I'd seen the first 2 Iron Mans, but not any of the other movies that came before. And as soon as I saw what this movie was doing, I saw the future of the MCU, and I was totally in. And I went back and I watched the rest of them. But the Battle of New York alone, just the scope of that and everything that it was doing compared to other superhero movies at the time, just really blew my mind. And I that was my gateway movie into the MCU, was the original Avengers. So for me, that's number 3.
My number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
What?
What? I
Oh
know,
my
right?
God, Joe.
I'm sitting here looking at the gaps in his list and going, whoa.
I think it's a great movie. I think, contrary to what you said, Cody, about the villain, I think Kurt Russell's great in this movie. I love the opening where we see kind of like the opening sequence is amazing. That like fight sequence.
Yeah, that
set
part's
to,
cool.
The Yellow Song.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the flashback where we get Kurt Russell in the 70s, even though the CGI is not so great in that scene. But really, I mean, maybe I have daddy issues that I'm not aware of, but just the whole like conflict between Peter Quill and Ego, his father, like it worked for me in a way that very few kind of conflicts in the MCU do. Like I just felt like there was a very strong emotional core there. And I mean, I think that's one of the things I think James Gunn does best is he's great at humor and kind of having, kind of ridiculous situations, but he's also great at still landing like an emotional core and emotional resonance amidst all the chaos and like fun stuff. And the movie really just worked for me on that level.
You must have really loved the Eternals then, since it was the same plot. Was that one of your last 2 you got coming up?
No, Eternals was 17 for him.
Joking.
I'm not going to acknowledge that.
All right, Dave's got the magic tabulation list, so he knows where stuff is. I have no idea where stuff is here, but so down to 2. This was tough. Well, I don't know if this will surprise or not surprise the 2 of you, but anyway, my number 2 I went with was Avengers Infinity War as my number 2. And for a lot of reasons already listed, the heroes lost, as Joe mentioned, which was pretty shocking. And I mean, it was after so many years with these characters, it was pretty genuinely heartbreaking to watch them dissolve during those last moments when Thanos had snapped his fingers and the rest of the heroes are like, what happened? And then you start to see everybody dissolve away. That moment's made slightly less impactful because I read an interview with the Russos later when somebody asked them like how they picked who was lived and who died when they snapped, and they were like, we just chose the characters that had the most emotional impact. And then we were like, oh, all right. So apparently they did that and then wrote the next movie after that. So but it's fantastic. I mean, just the collection of the Infinity Stones, and they have a chance to stop them or not. And I think we knew going into this that this was 2 parts, right? I feel like we did.
We sure did.
Yeah,
so we knew something was going to happen here from one to the other movie, but it didn't lessen that moment of like everybody doing anything they could to try to stop them, down to Scarlet Witch trying to like destroy the gem in Vision's head at the end to keep him from the last one. But it's monumental. That and Endgame, both monumental filmmaking here.
Number 2 for me is also Avengers Infinity War. For all the reasons Cody just said, every single sequence in this is just incredible, with maybe the exception of Thor creating Stormbreaker. But even that I liked quite a bit. But all the battles are
Dave hates
incredible.
dwarves.
Especially if they're deaf Indian dwarves.
All the battles are incredible. The snap, incredible. Everything that it led to in the future, and everything leading up to that. Like they had built up Thanos, just hinting at him over so many movies, and he had a lot to live up to. And man, did they succeed. Josh Brolin and everyone that put Thanos together into a really memorable villain, I just thought was incredible. I will watch this movie anytime. It's a 10 out of 10 movie for me.
Nice. My number 2 is one
Iron Man 3.
I'm gonna struggle to disagree with. My number 2 is one that actually kind of surprised me when I was making this list, but it was the only one that felt right. And that is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Wow. Okay.
I just love the hell out of this movie. I think it might have the biggest heart of any MCU movie. I love the setting. I love that it's set like in the 40s. I was actually disappointed at the end of the movie that they brought the character into the present day, because I would have loved to have seen more of him like in that setting, and even maybe like throughout the ensuing years. But I love Chris Evans as that character. I love seeing him punch Nazis. I like Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. I loved everything about that movie. And I especially loved, what it kind of has to say about what makes a hero. So it's probably the MCU movie I've seen the most, and it's just one that is really kind of near and dear to my heart.
Wow. I mean, good choice. Not much I can say about that, I guess. Well, my last one left here then, number 1, very tight here with the Infinity War Endgame and Civil War, is going to be the traditional one for some websites. It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier as my tippity top. And let me tell you why. I didn't mention during Civil War, but I wish I would have in my comments, but I feel like this has the same thing to it, which is this idea of heroes versus their own government. And that's like a central theme to me that runs through some of the Captain America movies, with the Sokovia Accords, and with, to a lesser extent here, the Winter Soldier, where it kind of starts with a government that you're working for to help protect the people of the country, and yet that government is also simultaneously lying to you and withholding things from you. I think that's a really relevant and interesting topic played out here in the MCU, and in the Winter Soldier in particular is kind of where we got our first hints of all that. The fact that I know the Manchurian Candidates listed a lot as a comparison for this one, but the fact that they're hunting Captain America's real life best friend from his time as well, like kind of gives it this extra level of importance and I think emotions for Captain America, where like he feels obligated to protect his best friend from back then, while at the same time neutralizing the threat to the country that he protects, which is represented by his best friend. So it's kind of interesting. There's some shadiness here with Nick Fury, which kind of like made his character a little more dynamic. I believe Black Widow's thrown in there a little bit as well. This is one that opens with the boat scene, right? I think.
Yeah.
With, Crossbones, Rums, whatever his name is, Rumsfeld or Rums something.
Rumsfeld.
No and no. No and no. Something else. But anyway, anyway.
Is Crossbones in the boat scene?
Yeah, he's on their team at that point still.
Oh, okay.
But he's like the point man behind Black Widow and Cap. But anyway, just this idea of like working for your government that you're trying to work with, but then simultaneously is working against you, is just a really interesting idea to me. And I do think they pull out the spy thriller with this one a little bit. So it was really tight though, because I recognize what Infinity War and Endgame meant to the MCU, and even Civil War with like the hero versus hero stuff was pretty cool too. But I'm still gonna stick with this one as my number one, Winter Soldier.
All right, number one for me is Avengers Endgame. They followed up Infinity War with something that had a little less action, but more heart even. And I'm a huge sucker for time travel. I love time travel stories. And again, I didn't watch trailers going into this. I had very little idea. I had, I suspected that they were going to do time travel based on the Ant-Man stuff. But I walked into the theater going, if they go back to the Battle of New York, I'm going to fucking lose my mind. And sure enough, Battle of New York 2012, big letters on the screen. I was over the moon. I love the time travel in it. I love they made Nebula a really incredible, interesting character. She was cool before, but really like rocketed her up for me. Lots of great humor. And just the portal scene, I mean, the best end battle you could ask for, really, with just a couple of little flaws. And I love Endgame. That's my favorite movie of all time, honestly.
Wow. I'd have to really think. Well, no, but
I wouldn't go that far, but
it portal scenes definitely is my most watched YouTube video of all time. The reaction
of
scene
the
in
audience
theater.
reactions.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there are other contenders for top movie of all time, but if I really hashed it out, I think Endgame would end up on top.
Okay.
My number one movie is also Avengers: Endgame. I mean, for pretty much all the reasons Dave said, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I like that it's basically a time heist movie.
Yeah.
Fuck like yeah. They're just, traveling through time, trying to like pull off all these things to and I mean, the portal scene you guys both mentioned. I think that's the only MCU moment to make me openly weep in the theater. Like, because just like out of the sheer awesomeness of it, like there are some shots during that sequence that like my brain just could not even comprehend, like that so much amazing shit was happening on screen. Like I literally just like started crying. It was like just like fucking crazy. So yeah, I mean it really is just kind of the pinnacle of the entire MCU franchise. I'm honestly kind of worried at this point that they will never be able to like approach that height again, which we'll see. But even though I've enjoyed several of the Phase 4 movies, the fact that they don't feel like they're really kind of building towards the same sort of crescendo is a little worrisome. But yeah, it is just kind of the perfect culmination of everything that they had put together before it. And I think it is probably to date just the definitive MCU movie.
I think your worries are somewhat founded because I feel like though they will have other, well, I shouldn't say that. Like, I don't know how many of these things you watch from Comic-Con, but you already know from Loki, the TV show, like they're setting up Kang to be a big bad guy here. But the problem is I don't feel like he is that type of villain where he's going to have like a huge army and it's going to be like army versus army, blah, blah, blah. So you're not going to get that moment again. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there are multiple Kangs, or I think there will be multiple Kangs. So who knows? My biggest, like the weirdest thing to me is one thing that they announced during Comic-Con that I don't think we knew before is that Wakanda Forever, which comes out this year, is the last movie in Phase 4.
Yeah, true.
And I'm super excited about that movie. I was saying before we started recording that I think that might be the best Marvel trailer that's been released. Like the trailer for that movie is just incredible, but it doesn't really feel like any sort of culmination. Like I could be wrong because we don't, obviously we don't know what's going to happen in that movie, but like going into it, it doesn't feel like it is any sort of like tying up any loose ends. It feels like they're arbitrarily just saying like, okay, Phase 4 is over, we're moving into Phase 5 next year. Whereas, up to this point, each of the previous 3 phases did have a big culminating event.
I mean,
So I don't
that's
know.
not necessarily true because 2 ended with Ant-Man and 3 ended with Spider-Man. So I don't know if
I
that's
mean,
true.
technically, but
I'm
like
just saying, technically.
there were at least these big event movies just before those movies. You know what I'm
Well, and not in phase 2, but the rest of them, yes, I'll give you.
saying? Was Ultron not in phase 2?
Ultron
Oh, it,
was
it
right
was.
before
It just
Ant-Man.
wasn't a big culmination movie. It was barely
I
a movie at
mean,
all.
but it
So.
was at least like an Avengers movie, like
No,
tying
you're
things
right.
together.
Yeah, there was something big.
I'm
in it.
just saying I have concerns. I mean, I well, and the other thing is they announced both the King Dynasty or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
King
Mhm.
something movie, and Secret Wars, like which are supposed to come out in the same year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
Like, I mean, I'm curious to see what they do, but it feels like too much. I don't know. And I mean, we've talked about this with like the MCU shows and everything too, where it kind of feels like they're just throwing too much out too quickly to where maybe individual movies or series kind of have a hard time feeling special or really standing out. I don't know.
Yeah. When Feige was like, here's phase 5 and phase 6. And everybody's like, oh
it's
my
like
God.
give it a little breathing room. I don't know.
I guess they just
I-
wanted to make sure they knew the Avengers were coming out.
No.
I don't get, Joe, you're complaining that they're not tying together, and then you're also saying you need breathing room. Like, aren't those contradictory statements? Or am I
No,
not
because I
understanding
mean,
what
look
you're
at the
saying?
first Avengers movie. Like that, the first Avengers movie was years in the making. Like there was a
Right.
lot of space between, the individual movies that led up to that. And now, I mean, we're getting so much so fast, but it doesn't really seem like it's leading towards anything. Like,
I think they're in a rebuilding phase, and it feels like a lot of origin stories and a lot of loose ends now. But I don't know. This comment could age very poorly, but I think it's going to start tying together pretty soon here, and we'll kind of see what they've been doing.
I mean, I know not to be spoilery, but from what I've heard, I think the next Ant-Man movie, Quantumania, is going to bring King into things more.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a pretty big span of time from like the end of Loki to that movie. And
Yeah.
like none of the
That's true.
movies that have come out in the past year or two really feel like they're inherently tied together in any strong way. So I don't know. It just feels like, and I mean, I'm sure they will end up being like, honestly, I feel like as of now, the strongest through line we have is from the end of Shang-Chi, where, they say that they're getting that signal,
Oh, yeah.
which it seems like possible spoilers might tie into like Miss Marvel. But that's like the one thing that seems like it's maybe trying to like set up something that could tie some things together. But I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching this shit and probably enjoying it, but it doesn't feel as special as it once did.
I think I Am Groot will tie everything together in a
That's
big way.
fair. I think my worry is that they're going to have a problem with villains because they defeat a villain in almost every movie. And so they keep introducing more heroes, but they're subtracting villains, but adding heroes. So they're either going to have a mass retirement a la Captain America or a mass death at some point here or something to tip the scales. I don't know. And I never buy that a hero's truly retired. Like Cap found a way to age himself. So I believe he's retired, but like,
Yeah.
Hawkeye's 40. Like, I don't believe he wouldn't come back in the fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm curious. I mean, I think we're going to see some like splintering too, where it seems like they are setting up young Avengers,
Yeah.
especially with the shows. And like, I like a lot of those characters, but it's like, so we're going to have young Avengers and regular Avengers. So it's like multiple teams of heroes. And I mean, kind of what you're saying, Cody, it's like too many heroes. Like, what sort of villains can they come up with that can really make for an exciting, standoff against those teams?
Elaine Bennis is putting her team together. It's going to be good stuff.
Yeah. As long as they get eventually to Galactus, that's all I ask for. Just make it Galactus and make it good.
I just want them X-Men's.
All right, I'm going to go through our total rankings here. I just want to start by saying that Hulk is the most agreed upon movie at 29 for all of us, although it doesn't truly count, maybe if Joe hasn't seen it. So after that, it's Eternals, which got 2 24s and a 25 as the most agreed upon movie. The least agreed upon movie was Captain America, the First Avenger, which got a 2, a 12, and a 26.
Wow.
So that's quite the range there.
What Nazi put it at 26? That's ridiculous.
All right, so going from the bottom up, we have Hulk, then Thor Dark World, Thor, Iron Man 2, Eternals, Iron Man 3, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man and Wasp, then Ant-Man, Thor Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange, Black Widow, Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man 2, Far From Home. Iron Man, the original, is in the middle spot. Then in our top half, we have Captain America, the First Avenger, Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, Shang-Chi. And our top 10 is number 10, Captain Marvel. Number 9, Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 8, Guardians Volume 2. Number 7, Captain America Winter Soldier. Thor Ragnarok is number 6. OG Guardians, number 5. The Original Avengers, number 4. Civil War is number 3. And our top 2 are Infinity War and then Endgame. So that's pretty much my list. So I think I was
I was gonna say, are you sure you're not just reading your list, Dave?
At some extremes. But yeah, we like Endgame, we hate Hulk. Shocker, I know.
Yeah, that's not gonna surprise anybody. Also, shocker. Wakanda Forever won't be the best movie. I'm just calling it now. Nothing will ever be the best movie again now. Oh boy. Wow. That was fun. I really feel like I could re-rank those like right now by drawing out of a hat and get a different order.
I would be kind of curious. See, that's the thing. I'm never going to do a rewatch, but I would be curious to do a rewatch and like see if my rankings stand. I cannot commit that much time.
I mean, just don't think of it as committing time. Just think of it as casually watching it over a long period. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Actually, technically, we still have to watch The Last Spider-Man again, but it's sitting down there on loan from the library for way too many weeks. But
I have 5 million other things on my watch list.
That's fair.
There's too much good stuff out there.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Any closing thoughts, gents, besides that? We made it. Half a year. Can you believe that?
We did it. Woo.
I can't believe it. Wow. All right. Well, that's our top 29 MCU movies, everyone, to finish us off today. The big countdown finally happened. And we got so many podcasts we need to get in here coming up. They're kind of starting to, we went from like no ideas to like a big pile of ones we need to get to at some point here. So
I will say that it does feel appropriate that there was some disagreeing on this episode.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You
Quite
had some bad opinions, and my list was good. So
Right back at you.
my list was the least wrong list of the three of you tonight. So there we go.
All right, I'm going to run some stats
where
and
did you
find
put
out.
Endgame, Cody?
Number 4. But I didn't
what do you got,
have
Dave?
some of your crazy ones.
Joe and I agreed on our number 1 movie, which that's.
I mean, I
I'm
feel like
shocked.
that's the obvious one, though. Like,
I would think so, but apparently not.
It's my favorite moment in the whole series.
Apparently, Winter Soldier is number 1 for some people.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up here for this week's Ladies and Gents, here on Friends, occasionally not disagreeing. We're going to go out today with us doing our theme song as an attempt to do the Avengers theme song.
Friends occasionally not disagree. Friends occasionally not disagree.
what they said.
Friends who are occasionally not disagreeing.
You're going into Hudson territory. Somebody stop that man.
Disagree.
He writes one award-winning play and suddenly he's show tune guy. What's happening here?
Occasionally not disagreeing.
I can fond this all day.
Oh, that's all right, folks. That's it for us. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.